7Hz 5. This IEM is not for everyone, okay? So what do I mean by that? For example, when I first started listening to this 7Hz 5, and you can click on my playlist below, which is called NDEF Test Music here, okay? So let me just describe to you what I am hearing. The first 5 songs, as you can see here, which is from Diana Krall, 2, and from Alison Krauss, and then eventually Vivaldi, which is classical, sounded off key. I am just hearing the kind of sound which I would consider as super coloration, which emphasize quite a lot on the lower frequency and not so much on the mid-range or even the upper frequency. And then, so it really kind of like, hit to me. Perhaps there are certain specific kind of music which will be applicable to this 7Hz 5. And true indeed, when I switch to the next song, which is from Madonna here, which is full of electronic composition, electronic instrument, and suddenly I am hearing the kind of sound which is super engaging, vibrant and fun, okay? But then again, let's just take a closer look, okay? So, when we talk about the sound presentation itself, we talk about pace, rhythm and timing, which is spread. And that 5 dynamic driver seems to struggle establishing coherency. And what I mean by that is that I am hearing some sort of a disconnect between the 3 frequency level, especially the dominance of the lower frequency, okay? And then the mid-range seems to appear to operate independently, and the upper frequency kind of a bit subdued. So we are talking about kind of like, especially when not powered properly, we are talking about lack of resolution, lack of imaging, okay, in the mid-range and even in the upper frequency. So I would just simply say the tuning of this 7Hz 5 is not suitable if you enjoy vocal, if you love sparkly energetic treble, because it is definitely tuned not to be bright or sparkly with the upper frequency, especially from the upper mid-range all the way to the treble decay. But then again, if you love bass, then this is perhaps one of the IEM for you. This thing is super thumpy, okay? Dominating with the lower frequency. That, 5 drivers somehow, I think it could be like all 5 of them are designated for bass. Okay, for example, when I play this another playlist of mine, because I have decided that, this thing does not sound well with the majority of my playlist. And so I do have something which is special, which is called this playlist here, which is bass. And you can also see that in the link in the description below. And this is where this 7Hz 5 really shine. Okay, the kind of sound which I'm hearing is that, definitely immersive. It pulls you into the sound itself, the vibe, the groove of the, the lower frequency itself, anywhere from mid bass to the sub bass. And it is definitely cavernous. So what do I mean by cavernous? So just imagine this, okay? You are in a big cave, okay, and you have subwoofer pumping in maximum volume, and then every single little detail of that lower frequency being reverbed throughout the wall, and it numbs your senses. That kind of sensation that I'm talking about. Yes, this thing is definitely super suitable for bass head. Other than being super suitable for bass head, this 7Hz 5 is also surprisingly super suitable for gaming. And why is it so? I have tried this 7Hz 5 playing my favorite game, which is Starfield, and I was pleasantly surprised of how immersive, how circular the soundstage is. It is not exactly wide, but it is definitely, it felt open sounding, immersive, and I was able to pinpoint enemy direction and the kind of inclusion. I was able to enjoy the ambient sound really well. And to that point, I think it has something to do with the way the 5 driver operate within the space of that presentation. 7Hz 5 is a very unique and special IEM with 5 dynamic driver. I can guarantee you, you would not find anything else in the world that resemble this 7Hz 5. So, which also means that there's not much of comparison that can be done on this 7Hz 5 aside from few IEM which I have tested before. So let's just compare with some of the IEM which I have tried. So one IEM in particular came into my mind was this Campfire Trifecta, and that is a super expensive TOTL IEM with 3 dynamic drivers inside. And let me just put it this way, pretty much both of them exhibit similar kind of sound trait, which is kind of a bit organic, warm, slow, and fairly okay with the resolution and imaging, and focus a lot on the lower frequency. Both are definitely the kind of IEM for people who love huge, massive, cavernous bass. The difference being is that I do feel that trifecta offer a bit more of depth, vertical depth with the bass itself, with the impact and the kind of like the commanding presence of the mid bass itself. Whereas this 7Hz 5 kind of a bit both the sub bass and the mid bass being highly commanding. And then there's also comparison with another multiple dynamic driver IEM which I reviewed recently, which is Dyna Quattro from Binary Acoustic. So let me just quickly try to compare between the two of them. I would just simply say that Dyna Quattro, objectively, I would just simply say it is better tuned. Okay, overall the balance of the sound itself is just nice. Okay, between the lower frequency, the mid range, and the bass itself, it does appear kind of a bit bassy, but not too bassy to a point that I would even say that it is suitable for bass head. This is definitely bass head, but not Dyna Quattro. And Dyna Quattro is definitely the kind of IEM which I would consider as more applicable to wider genre of music, rather than just specific music for this 7Hz 5. As I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna repeat myself. 7Hz 5 is a unique and special IEM. You would want to know why you want it, okay? It is definitely not the kind of IEM which is suitable for every type of music or every type of genre. It is definitely suitable for certain specific kind of music, which is like electronic, dance music, techno, or even trance music. So if you love bass, if you love that kind of music, definitely you would want to consider 7Hz 5.